It's now my pleasure to present the Dr. Charles Mérieux Award for Achievement in Vaccinology and Immunology, which honors individuals whose outstanding lifetime contributions to the fight against vaccine-preventable diseases have led to significant improvement in public health. The award is named for Dr. Charles Mérieux, the distinguished French scientist who devoted his life to fighting infectious diseases globally, combining his medical knowledge with an understanding of business to develop one of the world's leading vaccine laboratories, the Pasteur Institute. Dr. Mérieux was also a founder of the French Institute of Foot and Mouth Disease, later renamed the Mérieux Institute, and used in vitro cultivation to produce millions of doses of vaccines. First offered in 2005, the award has been presented annually at the NFID Annual Conference on Vaccinology Research. The award is supported by Sanofi Pasteur. The next slide, please. It's now my honor to present the 2020 Dr. Charles Mérieux Award for Achievement in Vaccinology and Immunology to another friend and colleague, Dr. Piers Gardner, in recognition of his outstanding contributions in the fight against infectious diseases in the public health arena. Dr. Gardner is the senior advisor to the Global Health Institute at Stony Brook University. He received his medical degree from Harvard, trained in internal medicine at the University of Washington, and served as an Epidemic Intelligence Service officer of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. During his infectious disease fellowship at the Massachusetts General Hospital and an academic career at Harvard, the University of Chicago, and Stony Brook, Dr. Gardner maintained his focus on immunization advocacy and policy. Piers, on behalf of NFID, it is my great pleasure to virtually present you with the 2020 award, which we will mail to you. We're glad you're able to join us and welcome your remarks. Piers?
Honored to, profoundly grateful and honored to be the 16th recipient of the Charles Mérieux Award, and I'm humbled to review the list of the previous 15 recipients. I congratulate the National Foundation for Infectious Disease on its 47th birthday and for its ever-growing leadership in educating both the public and the professionals regarding immunization issues. Your website is very terrific. I enjoyed it. It's up to date, knowledgeable, and I hope it's very, very widely used. It's a great website. You also have the good fortune to have Bill Schaffner as your medical director. Bill is a calm and steady voice, which has been very valuable in this time of COVID crisis. Bill and I bonded at ACIP meetings long ago, and were early advocates for adult immunization. And we wrote a current concepts piece in the New England Journal in the mid-90s that compared the death rates from the diseases we immunize against, pneumococcal, influenza, hepatitis B, with the Vietnam experience, which and we're able to show that annually we lose more people to those infections than we lost in all the people whose names are up on the lovely wall in Washington. And we were able to calculate using CDC estimates of prevalence and efficacy of the vaccines at those times that if we fully implemented the CDC recommendations, we would have the rate of death from those infections. So that was a good attention getter. And I think one of the things that's pleased me over the decades is that adult issues are getting significant attention from CDC. Now, I wanted to also talk about the compliment NFID on its ability not only to educate and to advocate, but I think it's time now, with Bill particularly being pretty much a lifetime member of ACIP, to begin to influence issues such as policy. And I'm particularly, the ACIP is not a very nimble organization, meets 3 times a year, and its recommendations are always well vetted in multiple committees. But we have, for instance, in our COVID epidemic this year, been stuck in the sort of 2/3 of the way through the influenza epidemic. We now have the emerging COVID, and we have put in extraordinary efforts into building capacity and for beds and building new field hospitals and taking the comfort ship with 1,000 beds up to New York. But we didn't pay very much attention to any possibilities of using vaccines to, using influenza vaccine at least, to modify possibly the tail end of the influenza thing in a way that would reduce the demand on these beds. So, for instance, could we have tried in the middle of February to make a major effort to immunize the 50% of people who didn't take their influenza vaccine this year, with the effort of still making some difference? Or another thing might have been to consider re-immunizing the 4 million people who are in nursing homes or assisted living facilities who may have been immunized as appropriately back in September, October, but we know that vaccine titers drops, and some years in past we had considered 2 rounds of immunization, and this might have been a very good year to come back again with an additional dose of the high dose influenza vaccine in an effort to stem the surge on the for the beds and hospitalization. Now, I wanted to touch briefly on the issues of building manpower and supporting and nurturing people entering the field that we cherish of vaccine and advocacy. It's not something that's taught in medical school. I think early life decisions, experiences are often very important. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my own path to where we are now. I was a student who really enjoyed medical school. Everything we did, I thought, well, that might be a good way to spend a career. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I went to the University of Washington, and I'll take that first slide, please, where I was a house officer with Robert Petersdorf, a charismatic leader in infectious disease, leader in American medicine. And he pretty much convinced me right now that this was the thing to do. And I started off to do general, I was very clinically oriented at the time, to do that infectious disease. At the time, the serendipities of life, it was necessary after your second year of training to go into the military or a uniform service. And Petersdorf convinced me I should go to CDC and become an EIS officer. That was a transformative experience. I have the next slide. And when I was there, and here is a picture of a bunch of EIS officers. And there's D.A. Henderson on the left, me at age 28, I think, with a drum. Palmer Beasley on the right, who distinguished himself with a epidemiology of hepatitis B. George Miller right next to him with a horn, a leader in virology at Yale. Larry Altman, who's become a medical, started a whole field of medical reporting. It says that we were all pretty much fresh out of our residencies. We had it was an eye-opening and career chance to look at public policy and implementation in a way that was terrific. And D.A. Henderson here is there. We also had chances to do international work. And another amazing encounter, I went there with the next slide shows Bill Fagey, who was a couple of years ahead of us, and we were to Tonga to do a vaccine program studying administration of smallpox vaccine with a jet injector gun. And the following year, I was in Togo in West Africa with a similar thing. And these were just experiences that changed my life in terms of recognition of global health, the luxuries that we live in the Western world. And so I tell people thinking, people interested in global health, it will ruin you for Park Avenue practice. You will have to go and do something more direct national importance. So those are great influence, early career things for me. Coming out of it, I've spent most of my time in efforts to train the next generation and to do useful things. And most interestingly enough, when I was getting near the end of my academic life, early life, I went to NIH and it's the Fogarty Center. And the next slide shows a program that I started pretty much there, in which I wanted to show, I was going to point out that the NIH the picture I showed you of CDC was completely devoid of any diversity and any women. It was a time when we wouldn't recognize now. And here, 20 years later, a program that's got plenty of diversity, plenty of women that we started at Fogarty and NIH. And this is for people in global health, not just limited to immunization, but immunization's been a very big part of that. So I'm a big advocate of early life experiences. I think that if it would be lovely to see NFID put lots of effort into earlier experiences of the students going through medical school for opportunities and experiences in vaccine. It's a field that I think is very attractive to young idealists, and that's a field that it's been a great experience doing that. So I would congratulate NFID on its lovely work in advocacy. I think, the final thing I wanted to focus on in nurturing people whose idealism and energy leads them into these fields is the issue of student debt. I'm spending a lot of my time now trying to figure out student debt. And I've had too many students who really, really are enthusiastic about global health, but immunization, about all of the things that are valued by society but not rewarded economically, and we need to make sure that that we don't load them up on so much debt through medical school. It's $200,000 and $300,000 now, and that they are forced into doing other things. So we'd like to make sure they can still do what they're good at and what they're interested in doing. So it's been fun working with young people doing this. I admire NFID for its work, and I thank you again very much for the Mérieux Award. I will cherish it.